Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our presentation, which is talk about appreciation of poem. And before we continue our presentation, I would like to introduce to you our member, which we are from Group 8, which consists 5 members. The first member is Jihan Nur, with the ID number is A121190004. And then the second member is Nurrahma, with the ID number is A1211918. And the third member is Rizki Amalia, with the ID number is A1211920. And the fourth member is Listiana Eka Dewi Mahmuda, with the ID number is A1211924. And the last member is Abdi Perkasa, with the ID number is A1211940. So the topic that we are going to present it right now is analyze a poem. So how to analyze a poem? So there are 8 steps to analyze a poem. The first one is to begin. So in here, we should read a poem all the way to at least twice, read it loud and listen to it, because poetry is related to music, so the sound is important. You listen to your favorite series many times and the principle is the same, and it takes time to fully appreciate and understand a work of art. And the second one is literal meaning and theme. Before you can understand a poem as a whole, you have to start with an understanding of the individual word. Get a good dictionary, look up and write down the meanings of. The first one is like words you don't know, words you sort of know, and an important word, even if you don't know, if you know them, maybe they have more than one meaning, or maybe they can function as a different part of speech. If the poem was written a long time ago, maybe the history of the word matter, or maybe the meaning of the word has changed over the years. So at etymological dictionary, like the Oxford English Dictionary, can help you find out more about the history of a particular word. The third one is title. So you start your research for the theme by looking at the title of the poem. It was probably carefully chosen. What information does it give you, and what expectation does it create? For example, a poem call it The Garden of Love should cause a different response from the one call it The Potion Tree. Does the title tell you the subject of the poem? For example, the groundhog. Does the title label the poem as a specific literary type, for example, ode to melancholy and sonnet at Christmas? And if so, you should check what characteristics such a poem have and discuss how to both use the rule. Is the title an object or event that becomes a key symbol? So you must see language and imagery. The next one, tone. And you might consider the tone. Who is speaking? Listen to the voice. Is it a man or a woman? Someone young or old? Is any particular race, nationality, religion suggested? And does the voice sound like the direct voice of the poet speaking to you, expressing thought and feelings? Is a spirit character being created? Someone who is not necessarily like the poet at all, or a persona? Is the speaker addressing someone in particular? Who or what? Is the poem trying to make a point, win an argument, move someone to action, or it's just expressing something without requiring an answer? For example, a poem about spring may just want to express joy about the end of winter, or it may attempt to seduce someone, or it may encourage someone to go play in the field. What is the speaker's mood? Is the speaker angry, sad, happy, and cynical? And how do you know? And this is all closely related to the subject of the poem itself. And what is the speaker talking about? And the theme, why is the speaker talking about this? And what is the speaker trying to say about this, or this subject? So The fifth one, we have a structure, and in the structure, we talk about how is the poem organized and how is it divided up. Are there individual stanzas or a number section, and what does each section or stanza discuss? And how are the section or stanza related to each other? So if there are no formal division, try breaking down the poem sentence by sentence or line by line. The poet's thinking process may not be absolutely logical, but there is probably an emotional link between ideas. For example, you may ask a friend to pass mustard for a hot dog and suddenly be reminded of a summer romance and a special picnic. It doesn't look rational from the outside, but it makes emotional sense. A very controlled structure may tell you a lot about the poet's attitude toward the subject. And it is a very formal topic. Is it the poet trying to get a grip on something chaotic? A free poetic form is also wordism meaning. What is appropriate or revealing about the lack of structure? The sixth one, we have sound and rhythm. Poetry is rooted in music. You may have learned to skim poetry to break it into accented or unaccented syllable and fit per line. There are different types of meter like iambic pentameter, which is a 5-beat line with alternating accented and accented syllable. You can use a glossary of literary terms to find a list of the major type of meter. Not all poems, however, we have a sick meter. So what is important is to listen to the rhythm and the way it affects the meaning of the poem. So the seventh one, we have a language and imagery. Every conclusion you have drawn so far has been based on the language and imagery of the poem. They have to be, that's all you have to go on. A poem is only word and it has been carefully chosen. And you begin by making sure you understood the dictionary meaning of this word or the denotative meaning. All right, so let's see the poem that we are going to discuss right now is about the explosion by Philip Larkin. And the first stanza would be presented or would be read by my friend, Abdi Perkasa. Time is yours.
The Explosion by Philip Larkin. On the day of the explosion, shadows pointed towards the pit. In the sun, the slack hips slept. Down the lane came in Pitwood, coughing out a stalk and a pip smoke, shouldering up the frozen silence. And for the next line will be presented by my friends Nurrahma.
One chased after rabbits, large egg, showed them large them in the crisis.
All right, Nurrahma, thank you for read the poem. The next stanza would be read by Jihan Nur. Jihan Nur, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. So they passed in birds and moleskin. Father's brothers names laughter. Look, the tall gate standing open. Next slide, please. At noon, their tremor goes. Stop cheering for a second sun. Scarfed as in a head-case dime.
Thank you, Jihan Nur. Now I would like to continue to read the poem. So the days go on before us. They are sitting in a God's house in a comfort. We shall see them face to face. Plain as lettering in the cables, it was said, and for a second, wife saw man of the explosion. the next slide, the next stanza would be read by Rizki Amalia. Rizki Amalia, Sami Shuri.
Okay, thank you. Larger than in gold as on a coin or walking somehow wisdom. One showing the acts unbroken.
All right, thank you, Rizki Amalia. So the next slide will be presented by Abdi. Abdi, Sami Shuri.
Rather. So after we read the poem, we can conclude that this poem describes a tragic accident, an explosion in a coal mine in which a group of miners lost their lives. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Abdi Perkasa. The next slide would be presented by Jihan Nur. Jihan Nur, Sami Shuri.
Okay, what is the point about first life after death? This point suggests is not the end. This is suggested by wife vision of the man at the time of the accident. They see words of hope from the Bible, and their husbands appear to them almost like angels. The eggs held by one of the miners are a symbol of life after death. Eggs are associated. Egg, the large eggs have been unbroken by the tremors that shook the files. Similarly, our lives will be unbroken by death. Even after we leave this life, we will continue to exist in God's house. Second, social commentary. It is also point as a social commentary on the as charging as they walk, indicating the damage done, done to their lungs. The daily danger of their life is clear when the explosion takes place. Tragically, it is only in death that the man's difficult lives. They are gold as a coin, whereas in life they will permanently blackmailed by the mine. It is only in death that the miners rise up and transform themselves to become large than in life they manage. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jihan Nur, for presenting about what is the poem about. So the next slide would be presented by Rizki Amalia. Rizki Amalia, Sami Shuri.
Okay, the next is tone and speaker. Emotionally detached, impersonal, not connections to the victim, miners of the explosion. The speaker presents itself as an observer that witnesses the facts that take place and reports them. Law informs the reader of the explosion. Repetition of the title. Next slide, please. Okay, the next structure. The first structure is external. 8 stanzas, 3 lines each plus additional closing line. And the second matter, unrhymed, rate, tetrameter ending of infalling rhythm. The second structure is internal. Of victims of a mining accident that took place in 1968. The second is stanza 1 to 5 describe the setting, condition, and day of the event explosion. The third structure internal is stanza 6 to 8, focused on the church services for the victims. That's all from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rizki Amalia. So now we come to the meaning of each stanza, which the first stanza would be presented by Rahma. Rahma, Tom is yours.
Okay, thank you. Larkin gave us an initial insight of how the day of the explosion was firstly conveyed the two images. The first one of how the shadow pointed the pit head foreshadowing the fatal fate. The second on illustrated that there was no light illuminating the atmosphere as it was covered by the slack heap, suggesting that it was dawning and also foreshadowing. Next slide, please. And the second stanza, within this stanza, Larkin described the scan of mine worker arriving to start their day's work. The man gradually broke the phrase morning silence with comments that soon grow into conversation. Larkin stated their conversation contained courses some of the main smoke pipes. Next slide, please. And third stanza, Larkin described on one young miner who chased a rabbit but lost it, foreshadowing the fate of their fellow mates, and returned with a nest of large eggs that the found and left in the grass after showing them to his mate. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nurrahma. Next, the next stanza would be presented by Abdi Perkasa. Abdi Perkasa, Tom is yours.
Thank you, moderator. Um, Fourth stanza. Larkin presents random details of the scene of the workers arriving. Their beards on the top material their mining clothes were made from. There are strong family connections between the men with two generations of the males of many families employed in the mine. Many are known by nicknames and seem to enjoy each other's sense of humor. They all enter the mine area through cross gates. These gates are ominous with the suggestion of entering the gates of heaven or hell. They hint at the days to come like the word shadow. The next slide, please. Fifth and the fifth stanza, Larkin refers to the main event, the explosion of the title. It happened at midday. First, cause notice a vibration in the ground, and they stopped grazing for a moment. Took only a moment. The sun, slightly covered by a haze of summer heat, lost its bright shine. Perhaps the explosion created a dust haze that partly blocked out the sun. Larkin does not tell us directly about the underground explosion, but the title and how it is repeated in the first line, the use of describing the details of how the atmosphere was corrupted, it makes sense. Larkin avoids describing the violence of grief, the predictable aspect of the event. Next slide, please. And the last sixth stanza, the stanza tells us that the minors that are now dead and that are now resting in peace is an attempt to comfort family members with a reference to heaven as a God's house of comfort. Thank you. That's
All
all
right,
from me.
all right, thank you, Abdi Perkasa, for presenting the sixth stanza. Okay, now we come to the seventh stanza. I would like to continue. In here, Lara can imagine the windows visualizing their husband, seeing them more intensely in their mind than they ever did during their lives together. In 8 and 9 stanza, the wife saw their man like figureheads stamp on a gold coin, or imagine them walking that sunny morning of the explosion toward them in the golden sunlight. And then perhaps the wife of the young miner who chased the rabbit has a vision of him walking toward her with a nest of large eggs unbroken, as if the miner returned unharmed. And then we move to the language and diction, what we presented by Rizki Amalia. Rizki Amalia, time is yours.
Okay, language and diction. Generally conversational and casual. The second is there are hidden meanings throughout, example shadows, slept, dimmed, etc. The third is he is deliberately matter of fact about a tragic event for which he must. Listiana, next slide, please. Larkin creates an unusual list of words to the miners who died in the explosion. Fathers, negative compound word to show the tough nature of the man's back from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rizki. All right, we move to the next slide, which is about style and imagery, which presented by Nurrahma. Nurrahma, time is yours.
Okay, I will explain about style and imagery. The first, showing 8-inch talk and pipe smoke, and the second, soldering of the phrase hand silence, and the third one showing a unbroken. Next slide, please. And the next, metaphor and smile. The first sun or served as in haze dim, and the second goal as a coin on walking, and the third in the sun the sleep slept. That's all for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nurrahma. Now we come to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.